So our next talk is called The Web of Trust, Bringing Trust to Our Trustless Networks. The speaker is a Web3 researcher simply named Adrian. So give a round of applause for Adrian. Oh, it's right there. Yeah.
Welcome and hello everyone. My name is Adrian. I'm also known as Cypher. And today I'll be talking about an interesting idea, an old idea actually, called the Web of Trust. And specifically what I'm interested in is, how do we build trust online? The question I want to ask us today is, who do you trust? And I'm looking around and I actually see people that I trust, and I want us to take a moment and put our hands up and find someone next to you and ask the question, would you lend them $5? Like, would you put your hand up if the person next to you borrowed €5? You would. Would you lend them €50? Keep your hands up if you would lend the person next to you €50. What about €500 right now? Would you lend the person? And so it starts to get a little bit dicey, right? So, who do you trust and in what context? And it doesn't necessarily have to be financial. Like, would you trust them to invite them to a party? Would you lend them your car? This is a very, contextualized thing. And so the question I am thinking about is trust and in what context? And the catalyst for this was a house party that we had. And, we've been doing a few of these parties. And in East Denver, we had a party where, this is shoe house, people took the respect of taking their shoes off and in a very, warm and trusting house party. But the problem with the house party is a very interesting social experiment in that it is a location with a finite resource. There's only so many people that can have in the party. East Denver has 15,000 people. You can't have all of East Denver in your house. And so what we did is that we created an Excel spreadsheet. We wrote some of our names of all of the friends that we wanted to trust, and we opened it up into our Telegram group, and we said, hey, if you want to invite some friends, let us know, and we'll add it to the Excel spreadsheet. And so we kind of started writing down who was allowed to come to this party, and obviously way more people came than expected. 150 people jammed into this little Airbnb, and it was awesome. And we learned a lot. At the time, we didn't appreciate it, but afterwards, we learned a lot. And so some of the lessons that we learned is that trust can be decentralized. And the story with this is there was a lady who came late at the party, drunk, obviously from some other party, rocked up. And we're like, you're not on the list. Who vouched for you? Blah, 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 Tony. And who the hell is Tony? Something about venture capital this, venture capital that. I'm like, I don't care about any of that stuff. This is my house. People are taking their shoes off, and people are coming. Who are you, and who vouched for you? And emerging from the party, a guy in a biker jacket comes and saves the day and says, she's with me. And so the friend that I was with at the door said, don't worry, let him in. And to be honest, I wasn't happy with the situation. And what I said is, listen, Jesus-looking dude, I'm not happy that she's coming to the party, but she's allowed. And if she causes anything, because she was drunk, if anything happens, I'm kicking her out, and I'm kicking you out too. And so he assured me that, if anything happens, he's going to take in charge. And so the intuition is that trust can be kind of delegated out. This is another lesson. Unfortunately, in the morning, I discovered that someone had graffitied our house. The Airbnb, someone on 4 different panels had scribbled their stupid NFT project, blah, blah, blah.net, on 4 separate walls. And I was like, who would do this to my house? And we posted on the Telegram chat, and sure enough, someone snitched. It was very interesting why they snitched. And so obviously he earned some trust for snitching, but the context was that we were having another hacker house in Breckenridge, and he was invited, and he didn't want to lose his spot in the house. Had he found out that the person he vouched for committed this crime, he was worried that he was going to lose his spot, and so obviously he snitched. And he did it in a way which was really nice. He said, look, my friend did that, and if there's any problems, I'll pay for the damages. Sorry about that. They were drunk, and so everything was fine. And the curiosity came with, is it important that the events happen continuously? Do you perform in a more trustworthy manner when the game is like a multiplayer game, when you play the game multiple times over time, you're going to the same events, you're seeing the same people? Is it the fact that like trust is built iteratively over time? And so normally if you have like a burner wallet, it's very hard to trust something that doesn't have a lot of history, but maybe you might trust an Ethereum wallet that's like 4 years old, has voted on a few governance things, has done a few things. And so the intuition here is that trust is built over time. And so it leads us to the next question. When we actually vouch for that person, in what context do you vouch them for? Like, why do you vouch them? I might vouch for someone that you might not vouch. And so we started to continue these experiments. And so at our time at Zuzalu, we played a game called the Bolivar experiment. And instead of doing a little Excel spreadsheet, what we were doing is that we were giving out Venezuelan bolivars. And here you have Manu playing this shamanistic ritual where like people get to like magically pick their bolivar. It's actually a fun game. They randomly get assigned a Venezuelan note, and the likelihood that they would have a Venezuelan bolivar in Montenegro the day before the party was just so absurd that like it is some soft civil resistance there. You can come to the party not because I trust your word, but because you have this physical item. And so people get to register, and they come to the party, and they get to vouch. And so we started doing this game where people would like self-issue their identity. And so like here we have a person who actually missed out on a bolivar, and he exstitutionalized himself and actually came to the party, and he registered a euro. And so because he registered the euro, he can actually be attested to and come to the party. Manu starts playing this game where he does the bidirectional vouching. This is a fun idea. There is a sense of trust when you do a selfie together. Who's been in the privacy game and be like, respectfully asked, can I take a selfie? You know, we live in a very privacy conscious world, and so the intuition is that there is some sort of trust that goes into making a selfie. And to make this game a little bit more fun and simpler to play, instead of having a Telegram group, we actually made this little app where you register your note, and you can collect all your vouchers, and you can share your QR code, and it's much easier to play the game. And so the game becomes like this trust-building exercise. In the back, what we have are some NFTs, and really a voucher is just an Ethereum signed message. It's nothing more than that. But you get to put whatever you want in the message, and you sign it. And it's up to the person to decide if they want to mint it as an NFT, and it becomes like a public message. It's kind of like your LinkedIn recommendations or something like that. And the idea is that if you start to build up this trust, you get multiple NFTs. And so I could meet someone in this room and go, oh my God, you got some NFTs from one of my best friends. You've got 4 of them. What? Like, you actually, he said that about you. And just that contextualized message builds a bridge between us. And so at the time when we were doing it, we didn't appreciate the power of this, but people loved this. And so hundreds of people played this game at Zuzalu, minting all these things. And so what we learned is that the community becomes very interesting with this game. We had a party that was the after party for Grimes. And so Grimes was doing a talk at Zuzalu, and we knew that she was playing at one of the beach clubs, and we organized the after party for it. And we knew that it was going to be very popular, because that week was a lot of people, but we said, hey, you can come to the party, but you needed at least 3 vouchers. We didn't just want anyone to just come, people that we didn't know. We said, hey, if you want to come to this party, go make some friends. And wow, that was fun. What it caused was all of this like intermingling, this interweaving of people trying to like get each other's vouchers and say, hey, I want to come to this party. It wasn't about getting on the list. It was actually like saying, did you actually do the work to make some friends? When you come to this party, who wants you here? Oh, 6 people want you here? Come in. Welcome, friend. And so when you kind of distribute the, I wouldn't say ownership, I wouldn't say responsibility, but when you delegate, when you institutionalize these events, people who are involved have this tendency that they want to contribute. They don't know how, they don't know in what capacity, but the tendency is that people, if they're involved and they've told 3 of their friends to come, they feel emotionally invested in the event and they want to try and contribute. And I've never been to a house party where in the morning someone mopped the house. The beers were put in the fridge. Like, it was incredible. And it went so viral that Grimes heard about our after party and institutionalized herself, and she's playing in my basement and like on the water, and it was one of the best parties I've ever had. And it wasn't because it was Grimes, because we saw her at the beach club before. It was a very different environment seeing Grimes at the beach club, knowing that it was a transactional, that she was there because someone paid her. And then she was at our house, and people were losing their minds. Like, what the hell is Grimes doing here? It's because the institutionalism that caused it to come, someone talked to someone and was emotionally invested to make the party as good as it be. And so we start to learn about this web of trust and the power that it has. And speaking to a lot of people smarter than me, people who've been playing this game a lot longer, people who are older than me, people who are wiser, have been talking about how this is not a new problem. This is a very old problem. And I was told, and I know some context, but here what we have is some cypherpunks who have self-issued their identity, 0x1, someone's got a barcode. You can see the same story rhyming in this. And so what we've discovered is that in the 90s, people used to play this game called a key signing party because they didn't trust each other. They didn't trust the government, they didn't trust their encryption, they didn't know who the PGP keys were, and so what they did is they came together. This is an event in the early 2000s where they signed each other's PGP fingerprint. And if you can imagine, it is a very similar scenario for us. Who knows who these Ethereum wallets are? Could we play a game? And so what we realized is that these cryptographers actually wrote academic papers. This is from the Web Archives. Something about different protocols. I've looked at about 4 or 5 different protocols. I like this particular protocol. It's the projected version of the Zimmerman key signing protocol. And so we can actually take some lessons from the past. These cryptographers who have solved this game and thought about different ways. And so in this old protocol, you email all the participants, they do their checksum, they send the keys to a key coordinator. It involves the trust of a centralized entity called the key signer and a key signing server. And the question became, could that just be a smart contract? Do we need to trust this key coordinator? And so instead of emailing your fingerprints, we can play a game. We can do a protocol in which we can start to play these webs of trust, but in a more sophisticated and a more technically correct way. And so you can imagine a scenario where in this protocol, everyone has to kind of vouch for each other, and they use 2 forms of digital ID. And so we don't particularly like the whole self-issued identity. We like the idea that you can take a fiat note, a 10 euros out of your wallet, and self-issue your own identity. The fact that it's fiat is beautiful. It comes with all this security, the verification ability, And the fact that we can turn something worthless, like a Venezuelan bolivar, and play this game using smart contracts, zero-knowledge proofs, however you wish to do it. It depends on your lack of trust and your trust assumptions and what you want. And so my hyperstition is that someday, soon, in the future, that we can all play a game. Not a game, but like have a system in which people can come together somewhere private, by a fire, and play and do a trust ceremony in which we form webs of trust, not just once, but multiple times over time, and start building what we call a web of trust, something that is interwoven over time and allows us to do things that we couldn't have done before. And my hope is that someday we get to have these webs of trust, because you never know, one day you're going to have to trust someone in this room. Thank you. My name's Adrian, and add me on Twitter, and happy to answer any questions. We got 4 minutes. Thank you. How much do you trust me? I need to borrow a car this weekend. Can you help me out? Are you planning an after party? If yes, can you invite me? No context here. The context is key. When someone asks you a question, I need to know who it's from. One thing that is another interesting point is that your trust isn't always the same. You know, I give the example of I have 2 friends, right? One, I want to give 100 euros. He's my best friend from school. I trust him. Like, that money is as good as gold. He will pay me back in 3 days without me even asking. I have another friend. If I give him 100 euros, that's gone. The likelihood that he pays me back, 50%. Whether it's 1 year or 4 years and how much effort, I'll give it like 10 cents on the dollar. And so the same trust assumptions, but different people have different contexts. So it is very contextualized. My questions are gone, but we can keep playing. Go for it.
Can this be used to politically organize?
Funny question. I tried to be a senator in New South Wales in 2018. I was trying to do a blockchain-based political party. I don't necessarily think it works so well at like the Senate level. There's different games that we can play. This is more for like lower forms of trust. And you might want to think about games in which you might airdrop a token and that becomes a DAO. And the question you want to know is, if we did a key signing party, we know that there are 133 people in this room. They are us. We can't just Sybil and have like a wallet full of bolivars, because the way we play the key signing party, it's one person in the room. And so if I airdropped us all, I know that there's some soft Sybil resistance that, you know, we can have a DAO. So we can work towards doing governance, but I don't think it's at the, you know, Senate level yet, no. Good question, thank you. I'm going to yield my time. Thank you very much.